Okay, let's really get into this. Imagine tonight all the laws just, well, they just vanish. Poof, gone.
Yeah.
Poof, every cop gone, courts shut, rule books up in smoke. Who are you when you wake up tomorrow
Right.
morning?
That's a jarring thought, isn't it? It's less about, the zombies outside and more about the
Hmm.
the sudden quiet inside.
Quiet. Or maybe noise.
Well, quiet from the outside rules, the thou
Mhm.
shalts. Suddenly it's just you. What's actually
Mhm.
stopping you? What's your real baseline?
Okay, let's park the whole societal collapse idea for a second. Just you. Your neighbor has something you desperately need. Food, water, whatever. No police, no courts, nobody watching.
Oh.
What genuinely stops you? I mean, it really stops you deep down.
That drills right down, doesn't it? Is that little voice inside saying, no, actually yours? Or is it just the echo of a rule book, the fear of getting caught?
I remember driving really late once, saw this car pulled over, looked sketchy, and I told myself, nah, too risky to stop, could be anything.
Right, self-preservation. Makes sense.
But looking back, was it really just being careful? Or was it, just easier not to get involved? A convenient shield?
That kind of rationalization is, well, it's very human, isn't it? We're good at finding sensible reasons to avoid uncomfortable actions. Maybe avoid facing something about ourselves.
We love demanding justice online, though. You see it all the time. But take away the system. Does justice just become grab what you can, eye for an eye?
That's the fear, isn't it? That without the structure, our definition of justice could slide back towards something much more immediate, maybe vengeful. It really challenges our whole idea of what a just society even means.
And law isn't just like murder and theft, right? It's the small stuff, too. Hesitating before you cut in line.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking twice before you pass on some juicy gossip. That little pang when you take, I don't know, an extra napkin you don't need. It's that fear of someone seeing, someone disapproving. That invisible net.
Exactly. It's those social pressures, the unspoken rules. They probably govern like 99% of our daily behavior,
Yeah.
much more than worrying about actual jail time.
Okay, picture this. No laws. You see someone weak, vulnerable, being preyed upon. Do you step in, risk your own skin,
Mm.
or do you walk away? And what does that choice do to you later? Which regret is worse?
That's just brutal. The raw intersection of wanting to help and wanting to survive without backup, without rules.
Mm-hmm.
It's a terrifying calculation. Risk versus conscience.
I heard this story once about this guy, pillar of the community, really respected. Then a hurricane hit, total chaos for weeks. No power, no police, nothing.
Right. The mask slips.
And the stories that came out after, things he did when the lights were off, when nobody was supposed to be watching, stuff the normal rules just kept buried deep down.
Those extreme situations, they act like a solvent, don't they? They dissolve that outer layer, that veneer of, well, civilization, I guess.
Yeah.
And you see what's underneath.
So are we actually good, like inherently, or are we just well-trained, performing goodness because we're scared of the consequences? Is our morality real or just conditioned? Socrates would have a field day.
Oh, absolutely. That Socratic questioning. It hits hard. Are we good by nature or just good because we're fenced in?
You know that saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely? Maybe it's not quite right here. Maybe absolute freedom, like this total lack of rules, doesn't corrupt. Maybe it just reveals.
Reveals the corruption that was maybe there all along.
Yeah.
Latent.
Yeah, like lifting a rock and seeing what scurries out. The absence of control doesn't create the bad stuff. It just gives it room to move.
That's a chilling perspective.
Yes.
It shifts the focus from external corruption to internal predisposition.
Think about history. Rome collapsing, Weimar Germany. It wasn't like everyone suddenly turned into monsters overnight.
No, it was ordinary people.
Ordinary people under unbearable pressure. When the structure breaks, all those hidden fears, those resentments, the desires, they just surge into the open space.
And those historical examples are terrifying because they show how thin that structure can be, how quickly things can unravel when the pressure gets high enough.
Okay, just take a breath for a second. Think about the systems we live in now, systems that benefit us. Have you ever, just gone along with something you knew deep down wasn't quite right? Harmful even? Legally okay, maybe, but...
Yeah, that complicity through silence
Yeah.
or just through inertia, it's uncomfortable to really sit with that, isn't it?
We judge rule breakers so easily, but how much of our own so-called integrity is just luck?
Yeah.
The luck of never being truly desperate.
It definitely challenges any sense of moral superiority. Makes you wonder how you'd really hold up if your circumstances were drastically different.
Okay, darker question. Would you rather be part of building a new society, knowing you might have to do some morally questionable things to make it stable, to make it just eventually?
The necessary evils argument.
Yeah. Or would you rather live innocently, but under a brutal existing system you know is wrong? Which path leaves a deeper stain?
That's a horrible choice. It forces you to weigh the morality of action versus inaction, the compromises needed for order versus the purity of passive resistance. There's no clean answer there.
Just look at how people drive when they think no cops are around. Speeding, cutting people off.
Yeah, the empty road phenomenon.
It's a tiny, everyday example of what happens when the perceived risk drops. Now crank that up. Add real survival stakes, hunger, fear.
It's a perfect little microcosm, isn't it? Unchecked self-interest just waiting for an opportunity. It escalates quickly in the mind.
So, no laws, you're starving. Do you take food from that empty shop? An empty house move-in? Someone threatens your family? Do you silence them? Permanently. Where's your line?
Whoa, that's a rapid descent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Each step seems almost logical in the moment, in the chaos, but where does it stop? That's the terrifying part, confronting those potential actions in yourself.
Part of me just wants order, predictability, safety. But there's another part, morbidly curious maybe, about what raw, unfiltered human nature actually like. Is there a kind of terrible honesty in chaos?
I think a lot of people feel that tension, the comfort of structure versus the, I don't know, the pull of the authentic. Even if it's brutal, it's unsettling.
I remember talking to a war survivor once. She said the bombs weren't the worst part. The worst part was seeing her neighbors, people she'd known for years.
Turn on each other.
Yeah, become cruel, opportunistic, just because the rules were gone. That was the real terror, she said. The people you thought you knew.
That hits hard. It speaks to the fragility of those social bonds we take for granted, how quickly us can become me when the pressure's on.
So maybe law isn't this great invention to make us inherently good. Maybe it's just a containment field. Because deep down, maybe we're not naturally inclined that way.
That's a deeply cynical view,
Yeah.
but maybe realistic. Reframing law as pragmatic necessity rather than moral aspiration, acknowledging the potential darkness.
We definitely perform lawfulness, don't we? Signal how good we are by following the easy rules, the ones everyone agrees on.
While conveniently ignoring the bigger systemic stuff.
Exactly. The stuff we're following the rules might actually be part of the problem.
That's a sharp critique of how we use compliance as a social signal. Yeah, got to mask a lot.
Okay, gut check time. Be totally honest, just with yourself.
Yeah.
If you knew 100% no one would ever find out, what's the worst thing you've ever just thought about doing?
Oof.
The law didn't stop the thought, did it? Jung would say those shadows, they're always there, lurking.
Right. The thought itself isn't illegal. The law governs action, not inclination.
Yeah.
And that gap, that's where the interesting stuff lies, morally speaking.
I knew this cop once. By the book, procedure perfect, followed every single rule,
Okay.
and he legally, absolutely legally ruined people's lives. Lawful? Yes. Good. That's the question that sticks with you, isn't it?
That stark example just blows up the easy equation of legal moral. They can be worlds apart.
You now flip it around. Lawless world. Someone's survival depends entirely on your mercy. Your choice. No reward for kindness, no punishment for cruelty. What do?
That puts you in the seat of power, doesn't it? Absolute power in that small moment. It forces you to confront your own capacity for compassion, or the lack of it, when there's nothing compelling you either way.
You cling to order, you call it civilization. But maybe that order is just a comfortable cage. Maybe you're just afraid of what you might do or who you might be if the door swung open.
That really challenges our self-perception. Is our commitment to order born from strength and virtue, or from fear of our own potential chaos?
Think about plagues in history, famines. The rules just dissolved. People didn't all suddenly sprout horns and tails.
No, they got desperate.
Exactly. Desperate people do desperate things. Are you so sure you're fundamentally different?
History suggests that under extreme duress, survival often becomes the primary, if not the only driver. It's humbling, or should be.
And what if law isn't even about good versus evil? What if it's just the rules the winners wrote, the powerful enforcing their version of order? Does legal just mean what the people in charge say goes?
That introduces a whole critical theory perspective, doesn't it? Law as an instrument of power, potentially reinforcing existing inequalities rather than representing some objective justice.
So what if your whole identity as a good person, a decent citizen, is just wallpaper? Suck onto the framework of the rules you've always known, take away the frame, what's actually underneath?
That's maybe the most profound and unsettling question of all. How much of us is inherent and how much is just scaffolding, societal scaffolding?
So just peel it all back. Forget the job title, the reputation, the fear of getting caught. Who's actually there in the quiet?
That demands a level of self-honesty that's, well, it's rare and often uncomfortable,
Eat.
but necessary maybe.
They say the chains you don't feel are the heaviest. Maybe law is just the prettiest, most comfortable chain we ever decided to wear.
That's a powerful metaphor. It includes consent, doesn't it? An agreement, perhaps unconscious, to be bound for the sake of predictability,
Yeah.
security.
So back to the beginning. Tonight, law dies. Tomorrow morning, are you the one taking? Or the one hiding? Or something else? Have you really decided?
It forces the abstract into the immediate. It's not a philosophical game anymore. It's about visceral choices. What do you do?
If this whole thought experiment got under your skin, maybe share it. Especially with someone who thinks rules automatically make people good. See what thoughts it sparks in them.
Yeah, prompting that conversation in others. That could be revealing too, challenging those easy assumptions.
And ask yourself, is your obedience virtue? Or is it just easy? Is it fear wearing a costume labeled responsibility?
That really questions the motivation behind compliance. Is it conviction or convenience?
Which feels worse? Breaking a law someone else made up? Or breaking the laws you know inside yourself? Your own conscience? Which failure haunts you more?
That internal versus external conflict.
Oh, yeah.
Which authority ultimately holds more weight for you?
We treat laws like software updates, you know? We install them, maybe complain a bit, but we hardly ever question the basic operating system underneath it all.
That's a great analogy. We focus on the specific rules, not the fundamental assumptions about society, human nature, power.
Okay, one more picture. Someone needs something vital. Medicine. Clean water. Only way is to take it. No cops, no courts. Just you, them, their desperation. Could you look them in the eye afterward? Could you live with your choice?
It brings it down to that human-to-human level, doesn't it? It strips away all the abstraction. Just raw need and your response.
A quick mental list. Every time you wanted to bend a rule, break a rule, small stuff, big stuff, but you didn't. Why not? Really, why? Fear of getting caught? Or did you genuinely believe it was wrong? Be honest.
That self-inventory.
Mm.
It can be quite revealing about our actual motivations versus the ones we like to tell ourselves.
Maybe you're so law-abiding. It's your whole thing. Predictable, safe, admirable even. But is it? Is there maybe something missing? Is it a bit empty?
Ouch. That's a pointed challenge to equate rigid conformity with a full life. Is playing it safe the highest good?
That refugee I mentioned. She also said in the chaos, the most dangerous weren't the old criminals. They were the ones making the new rules, the ones suddenly in charge. Chilling, right?
Absolutely chilling. Because it speaks to the opportunistic power grabs that happen in a vacuum. How quickly new forms of tyranny can emerge.
What's the moral weight of living well now? In a society maybe built on foundations that were deeply unjust. Even if it's all legal today, does the law just wash away the past?
That's a huge ethical question about historical debt and ongoing benefit. Can legality truly sanitize injustice over time? Many would argue no.
We all like to think we'd be heroes in a crisis, standing up, fighting back. But do you even speak up now, in normal life, when you see something small but wrong? Often, the law is the excuse not to act. It's not my responsibility.
That cuts deep, doesn't it? The gap between our imagined heroic selves and our actual, often passive daily behavior. Law can enable that passivity.
When the rules go, maybe it's not active malice that's the biggest problem. Maybe it's just apathy, people shrinking their circle of concern down to just themselves. That vacuum of caring, that's terrifying.
Indifference is the great enabler of atrocity. Yeah, that's a recurring theme in history, unfortunately, when people just stop looking out for each other.
So where does law actually get its power over you? God, the government, or is it just us? All of us agreeing day after day to play by these rules.
That probes the fundamental source of legitimacy, doesn't it? Divine right, the social contract, collective agreement, brute force. It's probably a mix, varying for everyone.
I used to be such a rule follower, thought it made me good. Then I realized maybe I wasn't actually aiming for good. Maybe I was just terrified of being seen as bad. Big difference.
That distinction between intrinsic motivation and external perception. Yeah, that's crucial. Fear of judgment is a powerful motivator, but it's not the same as virtue.
You know Nietzsche. He said morality is basically herd instinct. Law is the fence keeping the herd penned in. What happens when the fence breaks? What instincts get loose?
That Nietzschean perspective is always provocative. It suggests our higher values might be rooted in something much more primal, much more about group survival and control.
There's something primal in you, something the law keeps on a leash. If that leash snapped tonight, what's the first thing it would go after? Don't kid yourself.
That's a deliberately confronting question, isn't it? Forcing you to look at those impulses we usually suppress or deny. The id unleashed.
Ever followed a rule, a stupid bureaucratic rule maybe, that you knew was hurting someone you cared about, but you did it anyway because it's the rule? Was that obedience really the right thing?
Oh, that conflict between systemic rules and personal loyalty or compassion. That happens all the time, even now. It forces horrible compromises.
Forget natural law. Maybe underneath it all, there's just biology, needs, hunger, safety, power, and law is just this thin, fragile dam we built, hoping it holds.
That's a very stark, almost materialist view. Morality and law as constructs layered thinly over fundamental drives and power dynamics. Yeah. It's unsettlingly plausible.
And without law, maybe hero and villain are just outdated words. Maybe they're only survivors and the things they had to do to survive.
It suggests a collapse of our usual moral framework, where survival becomes the only operative principle, blurring all those lines we normally draw.
Quick choice. Safety under tyranny or freedom in chaos. Which you makes that call. The one who craves security above all or the one who craves autonomy.
That forces a confrontation with core values. What do you ultimately prioritize when the chips are really down? Security or freedom? Neither option is appealing.
Look, we can't build anything better, a better society, better selves, until we are willing to look squarely at the darkness. The darkness the rules help us ignore. In the world and, yeah, inside ourselves.
That feels true. Acknowledging the uncomfortable realities, the potential for failure, for harm. That seems like a necessary first step towards any real improvement. Ignoring it doesn't make it go away.
Imagine your own kid did something awful in this lawless world. Truly awful. Do you protect them no matter what? Or do you hand them over? To whatever passes for justice then, where does that loyalty finally break?
That's maybe the ultimate test, isn't it? Pitting our most fundamental protective instincts against abstract principles of justice in a world without guarantees. Horrifying.
Just remember, your compliance. It's not neutral. Going along with the system, any system is a choice. It endorses it. And if the law itself is wrong, then obedience isn't virtue, it's collaboration. Think about that.
That's a powerful reframing of passivity. Silence and compliance aren't neutral. They have consequences. They uphold the status quo, for better or worse.
Try explaining to your future self 10 years from now why you did what you did or didn't do in that lawless moment. What excuses, what justifications would actually sound convincing, even to you.
That future self-test? It's a good one. It adds a layer of long-term accountability, forcing you to think beyond immediate pressures.
Maybe real morality, true character, isn't about following the rules perfectly. Maybe it's about figuring out how to do the right thing when there are no rules telling you what to do.
That places the emphasis squarely on internal judgment, on conscience, on character developed enough to navigate ambiguity without external constraints. That's a high bar.
Honestly, I don't know for sure who I'd be tomorrow morning if the law just vanished tonight. And that uncertainty, that's the real kicker, isn't it? Does that sit uneasily with you too?
Absolutely. That uncertainty, that confrontation with the unknown parts of oneself,
Yeah.
it's deeply unsettling. And maybe it should be.
We're all maybe just one crisis, one blackout, one empty stomach away from finding out who we really are underneath it all. Perhaps just admitting that vulnerability is the first real step.
Towards being better than our base instincts.
Yeah.
Self-awareness, acknowledging that fragility.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the foundation for trying to choose better when things get tough.
So, that first question. If the law died tonight, the answer isn't a simple yes or no, good or bad. It's in all the tiny, messy choices you'd make minute by minute when the sun comes up.
It's a process, not a state.
Yeah.
Revealed through action or inaction under pressure. Dynamic.
Ultimately, you aren't defined by the rules you follow when you have to. You're defined by what you choose when nobody's watching and no rule book can touch you.
That's the core of it, isn't it? Character revealed in freedom, however terrifying that freedom might be.
Just sit with that for a while, even if it makes you squirm. Maybe even listen again later. See what uncomfortable bits really stick.
Letting it percolate. Sometimes the deepest insights come after the initial discomfort fades a little.
And if this conversation lit a fuse in that part of you that questions things, pass it on. Send it to someone who thinks rules are the whole story. Let's stir things up a bit.
Encourage that critical thinking, that self-reflection in others. Yeah, it's a conversation worth having.
This has been The Deep Dive. We don't do easy answers here. We just try to light up the questions you might be trying hard not to see. Like, ask yourself, why?